Thank you for joining Auto Network Reports. I'm your host, Roosevelt, and we have today Mr. Greg Morrison, Bumper to Bumper TV, and our old faithful Mr. Dave Bolt, TexGarage.com. That's
Oh,
TX. Old faithful. He
yeah.
blows every now and then.
No, Old Faithful blows with regularity every 73 minutes.
Yeah,
Now, has a shorter window than that.
yeah, any number of inappropriate jokes there, guys. But could I just be faithful?
Hey, whatever, faithful. And we have
Hey,
Miss
look who's here.
Valerie Menard,
Well, that's
Happy New
Latino
Year.
Traffic Reports. Happy New Year out of Austin, Texas. Decided to pop in from her busy schedule, spend a little time with us.
is
Before we get into the main topics of the day, we're going to talk a little bit about auto shows, what I call the slow death of auto shows. And we're going to take a look at the 2024 Toyota Tacoma Trail Hunter and some other news if time permits. But before we get going, please subscribe to the social media sites of each one of the panelists to show them some love. Also, you can find us on blackpressusa.com. And if you know an African American male that's 30 years or older, make sure he visits his urologist and get that PSA exam. I always say it's that little prick that could possibly save his life. Well, Valerie, we haven't seen you since last year. I see you forgot how to use
right.
this unmute. You're muted,
Yeah,
Valerie.
there I am.
There
I
you
know.
go. See, she
I have-
forgot already.
No, I have 20 open sites, so I had to find you all again. Anyway,
Oh my goodness.
but it's good to see everybody.
Hey, we command your full attention in 2025.
Yeah, I was trying to find that Tacoma, but I'll look for it in a minute. Yeah, I hope.
Well, good seeing you. Good seeing all of you. Hope you all have been safe so far for the first, what is this, half of January already. It's been, this time is going, as they say, so fast.
Well,
But let's get right into auto shows.
Okay.
Hopefully I can get into auto shows if I can find what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm like
From last year. Yeah.
I'm like Valerie.
Hey,
Auto shows. You know, this is from last year's Chicago Auto Show, and as we all know, ever since COVID, auto shows have taken a hit. As a matter of fact, for what, almost 3 years, 4 years, we didn't really have any major auto shows here in the United States. And as a result of COVID, it's been slow for the auto shows to get back to their full force, and I don't think they will ever get back to full force. But I'll give you my thoughts right quick, and then you all can chime in, and whether you agree or disagree. Like I said before, COVID has wreaked havoc on a lot of industries, and auto shows is one of them. And since the shows are coming back, the shows have gotten more expensive for the manufacturers to display. That's another reason that they're pulling out of quite a few auto shows. Virtual introductions kind of caught on when COVID hit. Some of the manufacturers still wanted to show their products, so they were doing virtual walkarounds. 3 or 4 years ago, when they were trying to do them, they weren't that great of a production, but they have gotten much better with these virtual intros. And with social media, they found out that they can reach a lot of people doing virtual shows on social media. Attendance hasn't been what it used to be at auto shows, even though now it's starting to come back. And one other thing that we're seeing In conjunction with the auto show, some of the manufacturers have found it to be more cost effective to do off-site introductions where they invite the media mainly to do an intro of the product that's off-site. They're not paying the heavy cost of exhibiting at the show itself. So what do you guys think?
Well, as somebody who has been doing auto shows, you and I have been doing them for more than a moment, Roosevelt, back when I had all black hair. One of the things that I think hurt the auto show, the traditional auto show, was the cost of labor, as you point out, in setting up for the big presentations, especially in cities like Detroit and Chicago and New York, as well as LA, because they were union houses. And the union scales were just getting crazy. I mean, Detroit, think about it. They would literally start working on building for that auto show in November. And so they were looking at paying union labor rates through Thanksgiving, through Christmas, and through the new year, just to be ready for that first or second week in January. That did not help. And then, as you point out, they found out that social media is a way to spread the word. And I mean, this technology that we're using just to have this conversation has become so easy to work with. Why not do this in that fashion? And the offsite reveals are also an example of that. Rather than having to pay union labor to do a big production, especially television or video production at the venue, they do it somewhere else, like an art studio or something, and then just move the car over and plop it in there and don't have to worry about the whole presentation.
Anybody else? Look like Greg Rhodes there. Valerie.
Okay, so definitely pushing back on the union thing. We're not just talking about Detroit and LA. So it's happening. So I'm pushing back on that. But I love auto shows. I miss them. I haven't been to as many as y'all have recently. I think that I think COVID, you're right. All the reasons you mentioned have hurt them, but I don't think they market them very well either. They just don't. And I think it's unfortunate because for folks to really want to get, a upfront look at all these vehicles all at once, it's a great opportunity. You're just not going to get that kind of opportunity and that kind of experience. So if you're a real fan of the automobile, this is a great place to go if you can get to an auto show. But I really don't think they have marketed them. They haven't progressed with the times to market them, appropriately. So that might also be a big problem with auto shows. But I hope they don't go because I think they're fun and hope more folks can start going back.
My last auto show, I concur with Valerie completely. My last auto show was a year ago this fall at the LA Auto Show for a public day. I didn't make it to Los Angeles in time to join the media, but I did make it in time to join the public. And this was not a complete show. I think Stellantis and its financial issues had resulted in a last-minute pullout, and that space was partially filled by Ford and a couple of the Asians, but for the most part, it was an incomplete show based on that. And you still had people scrambling over cars, into cars. There was a line to seat yourself behind the wheel of the new Land Cruiser and its Lexus counterpart, the GX 550. In other words, genuine buzz, and that's not buzz you get from an online introduction. It's not a tactile feel that you get from sitting at your laptop. The problem, as I see it, is that the people that represent the automakers, the agencies, aren't invested in the auto show. They're invested in their social media buzz. And they'd rather spend money with those guys and gals than they would with the people that put together auto shows. I understand there's a high expense to physically moving into a convention center and setting up, but they spend a lot of money in a lot of other ways that they don't seem to have a problem with. So why not take your product to the people with a genuine interest in it, which is the potential car buyer, and sell some metal? And selling metal is first and foremost why automakers make cars. And yet selling metal is so removed from the agency mantra. In fact, it's so far removed from the higher level executive mantra until they're trying to figure out their bonus at year's end. Then they worry about moving the metal. In between those months, not so much. So I think the death of the auto show is maybe premature. I think there are opportunities for it to be revived. To one of Valerie's singular points, they need to be better marketed. And for Christ's sake, there needs to be more emotional involvement in the auto show by the automakers themselves.
Yeah, I think I talked about it a couple weeks ago. Marketing and advertising and inviting us to these presentations and auto shows, it's all about selling an automobile. That is the bottom line. And auto shows, although they're usually sponsored by the local state or city automotive dealer association, dealers don't have the opportunity to try and hard sell you on a car. So as a consumer, you have control of what you want to see, how much time you want to spend with the vehicle. I always say auto shows is a family affair. You can bring everybody, have a good time. You can have snacks, and you can have a little bit of drinks if you choose to. And then take a look at what you want to purchase. See if the family will actually fit. Because most of the time these days, people are buying cars and they don't even know whether they can fit in them or not, whether the whole family can fit. You know, some cars, the seats are getting wider. Some cars, the seats are getting narrower. Leg room, and depending upon the car that you're getting, it's adequate or it's not. You know, we talk a lot about 3-row SUVs on the show, and it gives that family the opportunity to see, well, like Greg was saying last week, you know, people you want to punish, you put in the 3rd row. And the other thing, it saves the consumer a lot of time in going from dealership to dealership to try and get a good look at an automobile without feeling like you're under the gun to buy now. You know, you can really take your time. But I think one of the things that we're going to see that's going to really impact auto shows from the virtual standpoint, because virtual reality is going to get better and better, you're going to see AI step up to the plate. And you're going to see these virtual headsets where, as a family, you're going to be able to step into these cars in virtual reality and see whether you really fit or not. I think that's coming down the road, and I think it's going to be here a lot sooner than what we think. So this technology, like doing this show here, 6-7 years ago, you couldn't do something like this on a laptop or a smartphone with the clarity that you can do and distribute it to wherever you want it to be distributed to. I mean, right now we're streaming to 5 different locations just off this one platform. And all I had to do was start the show. Now imagine a car company, obviously, who has a bigger budget than my dollar. They can stream to thousands of locations off of from one point of entry in terms of the video. And you can do multiple camera shoots and get pictures much better than this. Like Greg and I were talking about the camera that now he can plug into his laptop off site and use his main camera. What is it, DLR? Greg? Wake up, Greg. I think Greg's frozen again. But anyway, he can use a high performance camera rather than just, you know, smartphone, even though smartphones now will challenge most cameras that are out there. Any
Well,
final? Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say, I don't care what sort of headset you're wearing. Again, I'm the analog guy, but it doesn't compare with putting yourself or your wife, your significant other behind the steering wheel, you getting into the next seat and putting the kids behind you. Does not compare, won't compare with that. Also of note at LA, again, over a year ago, while people were lined up looking at the Land Cruiser and GX 550, very few standing in front of the ID Buzz, VW's electric minivan that's about to hit showrooms right now. And maybe it was the fact that the ID Buzz has been sitting around in the media for seemingly years before its official introduction. But there just didn't seem to be that much curiosity about it relative to what was shown toward the Land Cruiser and Lexus. So it's kind of interesting also to get a feel for not only what the product is, but what the public reaction to that product is. And that in and of itself was informative and something you won't get in an auto show's media day. Because obviously the public's not there, only the media is there.
Yeah, I think we may be the ones that are cut out of going to auto shows, and that's the press, like us. As a matter of fact, this year in Chicago, for instance, there's usually a manufacturer that sponsors a group of about 50 plus automotive journalists, and this year there is no sponsor. So guess what? 50 plus automotive journalists won't be going to media days.
Well, they certainly
not being sponsored. You have to go on your own,
Right.
and most journalists are not going to go on their own. They're not going to spend the money to get there, air travel, hotel stay, food, and everything else that goes with it. That kind of transportation. So.
Well, the last media day that I attended was at the State Fair of Texas's show, which is maybe 2 falls ago, maybe. And Valerie, I'm honestly not remembering if you would have been there or not, but the media day consisted of the Stellantis folks hosting a breakfast, but having no press conference. The good news is they had a breakfast. The bad news is there was nothing to talk about. Toyota put on a nice show. Kia put on a nice presentation with their EV9 having just been introduced. And Ford, which at one time was bringing people in from Detroit via airplane, via company plane, journalists coming in via company plane to see what Ford was announcing at that point in time, was reduced to a regional PR guy who's a very capable guy, but he was standing in the bed of an F-Series with no system at all, sound system at all, talking about the F-Series. That was what the Ford presentation consisted of. Lunch used to be in the State Fair Music Hall, was a few boxes of pizza laid out near the Kia booth.
Wow.
So that is how we've devolved. And
Yeah.
If memory serves, I think I bought an airline ticket to be there. And that was an airline ticket that probably could have been spent better elsewhere.
Yeah, regional auto shows are great, and they are definitely more set up for the consumer because you're not going to have a lot of press. You're not going to have a lot of press there from around the country to
Right,
go to, say, the San Diego Auto Show.
right.
But the major auto shows, Chicago, LA, New York, and Detroit, they want the media there, and a lot of times it's international media. It's just not local media. So they get international exposure, totally different than a regional auto show.
Right.
I enjoyed doing when I lived in the Washington area, I enjoyed doing the DC auto show. And, we had maybe three manufacturers, 4 manufacturers to be there. There were regional people giving good presentations, good setups, and good displays.
Yeah, I went to the Austin Auto Show. That was the last one I went to. And it was great. I mean, it was well attended. And it's a pretty good collection of vehicles there. I mean, of course, it's puny compared to the big ones, but it was still very nice. And then I got to see a Batmobile. So I thought that was fun. And they were doing surprise. So, I do hope that I do also, I don't want to blame young people for everything, but I mean, I know that there's just not that appreciation. Maybe it's a generational thing, But I just hope the manufacturer, someone maybe is watching this and say, maybe we need to rethink these auto shows because I think they do have value, especially to consumers, for all the reasons that Dave was saying, just being able to, and you all were saying, everyone's saying, to be able to get in there, touch it, feel it, smell it. That's the big thing, the new car smell. So hopefully there'll be a new wave of interest in auto shows and maybe an interest in bringing in the media. You're very right, Roosevelt. Of course, I haven't been, but I used to go to Detroit, used to go to Chicago, and sometimes they'd send us to an odd one like, Miami. But yeah, there's definitely no interest. I mean, Ford doesn't even have a fleet here, really. They're not even bringing out many vehicles to drive. So yeah, let's hope that changes.
Well, our good friend Wayne says we're 100% correct. So I don't know whether he's talking about all of us being correct.
Or only one of us is correct.
Or one of us is being correct. But I want to thank Wayne for that comment. Moving right along, let me interject some other news before we get into taking a look at the Trail Hunter. And I came across a story the other day, and they were talking about some of the EVs are going to be losing their tax credits of $7,500. So if you're in the market for an EV, I strongly suggest that you go out there now and find one that still has the $7,500 tariff that's on it, because that's going away. And I also heard that used cars may get a tariff, so it's going to used EVs rather may get a tariff. That's going to be interesting to see.
I mean,
see how they work that out.
Yeah, I mean, how are you going to put a tariff on a car that's already here and has been sold once? I mean, I don't know who's coming up with this crazy idea.
Greg, you're in America.
Yeah, but well, we also know it's getting ready to happen on Monday, but that's a whole nother thing. But I think, to borrow a phrase from the guys up at the corner, they're smoking their socks if they think a tariff on a used EV will work. I mean, folks would do gray market sales all day long rather than deal with that.
Well,
smoking their socks.
Smoking their socks.
Yeah, their socks.
That's how wacky that idea is.
We haven't really talked about it on the show, but I guess everybody who's been paying attention in the auto space know that Nissan and Honda trying to work out a merger. It's going to be interesting to see how that works. I think that a Honda buyer has a whole different mental attitude than a Nissan buyer. So it's going to be interesting to see how they manage to put those two together and come up with something that will sell in the marketplace.
Well, what they may do is try to do like some of the other mega makers have done, which is keep them as separate brands, share some technology, but do some economy of scale in other places. Because as you say, Honda buyers are much different than, Nissan buyers. And it would provide a joint company everything from a full-size pickup truck, i.e. the Titan, all the way down to the latest in EV technology with what Honda's offering with the ASX and some of those. And now the RSX, I think they're going to bring back as an EV. So that's a marriage that could work, but of course you got to get all parties to play. And we've also forgot that Mitsubishi is part of that conversation. And that's where it's going to get real interesting. I don't know if anyone paid attention today to the note that came out of Plano, Texas, but Lexus, by the way, saying, hey, we're going to discontinue the RC and the FC. Those were high-end luxury vehicles for them, halo cars for them. They're discontinuing them. What's going on over in Lexus land? Anyone have any ideas?
They're cars, they're coupes. And
cost.
And for only a few of us, no one cares. That's regrettably the decision, and to Roosevelt's point, cost. But that's, I think, what moves that decision is that it's a car-based platform, and increasingly, no one cares about car-based platforms. It's a shame.
Well, I had a question when I saw that about Honda Nissan. And y'all might know the answer to this. I didn't see the appeal for Honda. So can you tell me what's in it for Honda? Is it just getting a full-size truck, or what is the appeal?
Well, it gives them a full-size truck. It gives them access to a pretty robust network here in the U.S. And we have to remember, these are both global brands. And Honda, while they do well here in the North American market, doesn't necessarily do well in other parts of the globe, like Europe. They don't do really well in South America to a point. So it gives them access to those markets to hopefully sell cars to people that we tend to forget about, because we tend to focus on the North American U.S. market. There's a whole world out there, folk.
I've read that it's points for the Japanese government and their trade associations that Honda will get chits based on their new alignment with Nissan, and those chits will come in handy when they look at marketing themselves globally. Nissan is a far bigger winner in this arrangement than Honda is, to my way of thinking, because Nissan is, in my corner, they say sucking hind tit. Does that ever come up in your corner, Ray?
Yes.
if they're not smoking socks, they're sucking hind tit.
moving right along. Moving right along. Let's see if we can get into where is it here? What did I do with it?
What did you do with the Tacoma?
I don't know where it is. Let me find it.
There it is.
Oh, it finally decided to show up.
What's on your driveway?
To the gym. And as you can see, it has a little frost on it here. So it is a chilly morning. And I will be doing my detailed walk around and POB test drive. So, quick look at the interior, and I'll see you later. Well, I have another day here with this Trail Hunter, and after driving it and getting in and out of it yesterday, I noticed a couple of things. One, this is a frame mounted rock rail and not a step. Not really to be used as something to step on to get in the vehicle. The other thing I noticed, there are no grab handles here. Now this is a pickup truck, sits a little higher, so getting in and out is a little challenge. And if you notice, the roof line here is low. I'm 6'1", and I can bump my head getting in here. And the only thing I can grab to pull myself to get in is steering wheel. There's the grab handle.
Now I'm gonna pause my audio talking about the truck in my walk around. This is the 2024 Toyota Tacoma. This is a Trail Hunter. It's a 4x4. It's a double cab. Even though I was surprised for a double cab, I expected a lot more cab space. I was surprised that it was not as big as what I would say a traditional double cab vehicle would be. It has a 2.4 liter turbo I-Force Max engine, 326 horsepower, 456 pound-feet of torque. All of that is controlled by an 8-speed automatic transmission. Gets 22 miles in the city, 24 on the highway, 23 combined. And Dave, you can get one of these at the special low price of $64,944. Just for you, Dave Bolt.
Yeah, Dave won't. I like Tacomas a lot, Roosevelt, but I like them at 45, maybe 50 grand. I don't like them at 65. To my way of thinking, if you're going to use the Trail Hunter for its intended purpose, which is aggressive off-road driving, that makes sense. But if you just want a mid-sized pickup to go to and from wherever you go to and from, spending 45 grand for a SR5 Tacoma with arguably the manual transmission would be a heck of a way to have a pickup for the next decade.
Off-roading is not where most of the people are going to take any of these true off-road vehicles that we talk about. That's a small percentage of the use of the vehicle.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think always will be. The number of people that buy Raptors for 75, 80 grand from their Ford store and actually get them dirty, I would put it at 10% maybe. But yeah, it just seems, awfully nice truck, but that $65,000, $70,000 territory, my God, even for people with jobs, that seems like a lot of money.
I remember when they revealed this to us, was it 2 years ago when we did that big Tacoma event out in Kona?
Could have been.
Yeah. And I looked at it and I said, okay, that's a nice off-road, that can go off-road, go anywhere. It'd be great for a sugar plantation or coffee plantation in the mountains. But I'm with Dave on this. It's just like, that's more off-road capability than the typical buyer will actually ever encounter in their lifetimes. Now, would I buy one of these new? No, but would I pick up one of these used maybe 5 years from now? Yeah, because that's something you cannot kill it. We know these things are reliable. And what I find fascinating is, well, not fascinating, but somewhat heartening, is that Toyota has committed to going with the iForce platform in both regular gasoline and hybrid platforms. So, it shows their evolution away from the traditional just 4-cylinder engine or 6 V6 that can, grind on forever. But it's a small segment. It's a real small segment of those who are buying that vehicle. This is, more for bragging rights than anything else.
Right. I was about to say that.
Would we call this a halo truck?
Nah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Bring folks to the dealership.
Oh, it'll bring some enthusiasts in.
Yeah.
When they see the price tag, they're going to run out the door.
But I think Valerie has a good point with respect to it, quote unquote, having a halo effect on the showroom. As the old analog guy, my son was shopping the Corolla Cross before the end of the year. I think I've mentioned ended up getting a Nissan Kicks. But in shopping the Corolla Cross, the dealer near us where he was looking had a Tacoma manual trans on the showroom floor. For one thing, to see anything on today's showroom other than sales cubicles is amazing. But for it to be a stick shift Tacoma was equally so. And again, this was at about a $40,000 price point. Perfect. But 65, 70 grand, not so much.
I did find that the ride on the road was very comfortable. It was a very comfortable ride. And I like to take my vehicle to across railroad tracks. And I was surprised the way the suspension handled the railroad track. I normally will speed up, see if I can do a jump. Just kidding.
He's airborne! Look out!
Yeah. See if I can go airborne, but no, just kidding. But the ride was extremely soft. I think that this is probably a pickup that could be a daily driver for me if I was looking for a pickup. This thing is more than able to go off-road. I don't think that, like Dave was saying, most of us wouldn't even be in a situation where we could be off-road and really take advantage of all the off-road capabilities of this little pickup truck.
There was also, you talk about getting in and out, and Roosevelt, the lack of a rear seat or rear seat space is perfectly illustrated with that video. But
thank you, Dave.
on my driveway with the wider track of this Trail Hunter package, and obviously, again, that may or may not work well off-road if you're negotiating a technical trail off-road. But it occupied almost as much space on my driveway as a full-size truck does.
Yeah.
And again, part of the reason I'd be attracted to a compact or mid-sized truck is its smaller footprint and the fact that you can more easily park a car next to it if it's on your driveway. So it kind of contradicts the whole premise of mid-sized compact trucks, Also, could we mention Ram in this conversation?
Go ahead.
The how do you pronounce the new guy's last name? Konsikis, that just was reassigned to the Ram.
Oh, Kniskus. Tim Kniskus.
Okay,
Tim
thank,
Kniskus. Yeah.
thank you. Who had been there, left, and has now come back to Ram. He was bemoaning the lack of a midsize or compact truck in the Ram lineup, despite the fact that he was probably the one who didn't get the ball rolling on it the last time he was there. But if Ram wants something in that segment, why not give consumers the $30,000 compact or midsize truck that no one other than the Ford Maverick seems to be delivering? What is wrong with spending 30 grand on a body on frame truck and not 40 grand or 50 grand? And if the domestics can't do it, let China come in with it, or at the very least, wait till China does come in with it. Because it's ludicrous that the young guy or gal cannot spend 30, finance 25, and get
Right.
into a compact truck for under 500 a month.
Well,
Well,
Dave, you
these-
been talking to my neighbor. I have a neighbor who lives behind me who just got into a Maverick for those very reasons.
Uh-huh.
And he wanted something that has a truck bed because he loves to garden and he's got his own greenhouse out back. He's growing everything legally. Don't worry, folks.
Yeah. Well, in your neighborhood, they smoke socks and nothing
Right.
else.
Yeah, right.
But the point being, that's a sweet spot that is waiting to be exploited. Right now, you've got Maverick, you've got Hyundai with the Santa Cruz playing in that space, and pretty much nobody else.
Right.
And if Ram had any sense, I would say, let's get into that space and call it a Dakota,
Right.
which is a nameplate that they already own. It's got a pretty good, legacy, and just go all in with a smaller vehicle, with a small block 4 or a hybrid, and compete in a space that they have not competed in a while. I mean, Valerie, you're in Texas, where if you don't have a truck, you ain't driving. How do you think that would play in truck country there?
Oh, fabulously. Yeah, we would love trucks of any kind we can get. I do see a lot of those cyber trucks, which shocks me.
I'm sorry.
But-
That's an involuntary reaction.
I know. But Texas will take any truck we can. And then I think the Ram brand is strong, and Dakota. We've got JJ Watt promoting Ram here. I don't know if you've seen those commercials, but we love JJ here. So yeah, I think you have a really good idea right there. I think it would work well for them.
Now, if they'd only pay us for these great ideas.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm finding in these vehicles, not just this truck, but especially if you're going to take a truck off-road now, the camera systems in these vehicles are just unbelievable. The number of views or angles of views that you can get. You can literally get a 360-degree view of everything around you. So if you're a true off-roader and you don't have that spotter to help you negotiate the trail, these cameras in these trucks now are just unbelievable for doing that. I wouldn't go deep off-roading without a partner or somebody to spot. But if you're just tooling through the woods, basically, you can see how close you are to trees around you and brush overhead with these cameras that are now in these vehicles. So it's going to be interesting to see
I'm
what
just wondering-
happens with this trail hunter.
I'm just
Roosevelt,
wondering about the folks who buy
do
this
they-
vehicle and worry about the paint getting scratched.
Well, we have a little delay here. What were you saying, Dave?
well, I was just going to ask if any of the cameras call you dumbass like a spotter will.
No, I do that every now and then. I do that to myself when I try to shoot some of this stuff. You dumb.
Well, we can't say that. This is a family show or semi-family.
Yeah. But I've had a couple of comments on the video of that truck. People didn't like the fact that I was shooting it vertical, and I wanted to do vertical just to see what kind of reaction. I think vertical gives you more focus on what you're talking about rather than the wide angle.
We will
What do
agree
you
to
guys
disagree
think?
on that.
Okay, that's why I asked you what you think.
I mean, the reality of it is not everybody's looking at videos on their phone. And I want to fill up the screen with as much data and information as I can. And vertical does not do that for me.
As I age, I'm getting less vertical and more horizontal.
No, that's because we like to both take naps.
I think that, like I said, I think that vertical gives you more focus. And if you're doing a demonstration and you're trying to show somebody something, the wider the screen, the more distraction you're going to have, whether you realize it or not. There's just too much information in the screen for your brain just to focus on the one point that that person is trying to show you. Just my thoughts.
It's your show, Roosevelt.
Right.
No, it's not. I keep telling you, it's our show.
No, but they're
But
new
it-
thoughts.
Yes, I hope. But anyway, here we go. We're a little over time. I want to thank Wayne for chiming in as he always does. I've been trying to get Wayne on the show, and I don't know whether you all know anything about Wayne. Wayne has become, I would say, the EV expert, and I'd love to have him on the show to talk about EVs and his experience over years now with EVs. He's also one of those, what is it? Not Ripley's, but he's one of those big awards type winners for doing something to do with miles per gallon or
Or it's a
miles
hypermiler. He's a
hyper
hypermiler.
mileage. What did he win for that?
Oh, he's won a couple of awards for his hypermiling experiences in technology. And you
Right.
know, one thing very few people know about Wayne, before he got into covering the auto industry, he worked in the nuclear power industry.
So he's the lightweight,
Yeah. Just a little lightweight, yeah.
right up there with Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want to thank Valerie for showing up. I'm glad they let you off your regular high-paying job to have some fun.
Me too. Good to see you.
And I want to thank the other panelists, as always, for taking time out of their busy schedule to have some fun on the show here. I want to thank those who watched the live presentation. I always like to thank those who watch the on-demand. And as I always say, please show the panelists some love, subscribe to their social media sites. As always, please buckle up, don't drink and drive. Buckle up, don't text and drive. And I was thinking about my old buddy, Frank Washington.
Yes.
And Frank used to say, buckle up
Don't
and
stream
don't
and drive.
stream and drive. And every time I get in the car and I want to stream and drive, I have to say, Frank, I apologize.
Yeah. Frank is missed.
I still miss him dearly.
Yeah. Very much so. Very much
Be
so.
safe, guys.
Love
See you
you.
next time.
See you
Have a
next
good
time.
weekend.
Bye-bye.